Julian here from Connections Early Years Family Center, and it is time for another Friday outdoor learning video. One activity we're doing today can be done in winter or summer or any season, but we're going to explore a winter walk in the woods. Some of you may make this a daily part of your routine depending on where you live, or some of you maybe it's not as accessible, but we're going to go over some of the benefits and little tips and tricks you can do when walking with your little ones in the woods to really get that immersive outdoor experience. So one thing that you can look for when you're out walking in the woods, and we didn't even get into the woods yet from the parking lot, is you can look for really fun shapes and patterns in trees that you don't always see on trees in the neighborhood because there's just not that variety of them. So here we have this very cool tree. I don't know what type it is. There's not even any leaves, of course. But it has this really big knot with a hole that goes right through the center. And if you look in, you can actually see through to the other side. Not sure if we're able to get that on the camera angle. Maybe, maybe not. There's some of that snow on the other side. So that's just one thing, or one example of something that you might look and notice for as you walk through the woods, is these really cool patterns on trees, and sometimes they're easier to spot in the winter because there's not all those leaves and all that green that's kind of making us look in every other place. So definitely, before we even get in the woods, we already found one cool thing. Something else you might find while you're out in the woods, especially if you happen to be at Malden Park, which is very hilly, is you might find some changes in levels, and in the winter these can get slick in the best and funnest kind of way. So here we have a little hill that has tunneled down to the bottom, and it's super slippery, so be careful as you walk, but if you're being safe, it's a fun one. You can either just slide down if you're in a snowsuit, or you can have fun trying to run up and down it. So again, Malden Park is a great one, but usually any set of woods you find will have at least a couple fun little hills tucked away that you can have some fun on. So something else that you might have an easier time seeing as you're going through the woods is wildlife and their homes. So we all know there's lots of squirrels up there year round, but during the winter, when all the leaves are gone, you can see those big bundles of twigs and leaves and all sorts of stuff that squirrels make into their giant nests. So it's a great time in the winter to go and look for these, just like it's a great time of winter to see different houses for birds, whether that's hollowed out trees or holes in the ground, because everything is a little bit more exposed in the winter. Also, on a side note, while we're in here looking for some wildlife, it's a great time to see wildlife such as deer and birds, which we've talked about in our bird watching video, for the same reasons of it's a very different background. It's only two tones, usually that brown and white. Easier to see things like deer walking through or little birds flitting through the branches, and if you're lucky at night, it also happens to be the best time of year to look and listen for owls in the woods. Okay, so something else you might notice in the woods is you might notice these tracks, and these are cross-country ski tracks, so if you've never heard it or tried it, it's a lot of fun. It's a little hard to do, you do need some equipment for it, but it's fun to look at the tracks as they go and to watch the way that they almost glide over the snow. And one activity that you could do is you could get some big pieces of cardboard on your feet, kind of like snowshoes, which is a little easier to do, and you could try and make your own tracks in the snow. And who knows, there might even be a video of that coming up soon. Another great thing about walking in the woods is oftentimes the woods have a bunch of snaking little trails that go in and out, and they go in circles and they go all over the place. And if you're not familiar with the woods, you might not really know where you're going, but that is the funnest part. So as you go through the woods, you can just let your little ones lead the way, and they might not know that they're going in circles, but they're going to feel like they're going on a very long and adventurous walk, and you're going to get lots of distance in, whether it's the same place over and over. And it's just so much fun to explore the entirety of the woods, feeling like you've experienced every little trail and every little tree with an animal in it. You've seen it all. So when you're in the woods, don't be worried to go in circles or get a little lost. That is all part of the fun. So another thing that you might notice as you're going through the woods, and again, you're going to notice all of these things on your own just getting out and exploring it. But when you're out there, be sure to look for these branches that have extra fun shapes. Like this one almost looks like an arch above my head, which is really fun to look for these different natural shapes in the trees. And even this whole corridor that we just came down through the woods, because the way the trees bend overhead, it almost feels like we're walking through a secret garden in the middle of the winter. So it's a feeling you can only get in the woods. So that is it today for our winter walk in the woods. As always, this is just some tips and tricks for how to get your child outdoors and engaged in a new winter activity. But obviously when you go out into the woods and get to explore it for yourself, it's going to be so much more fun than just watching the video on it. So please do give it a try. If you get any fun stories or pictures or adventures you'd like to share with us, we are on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We'd love to hear how it went for you. And keep in mind that we are also offering Connections to Go packages still. So if you want to maybe see some fun nature themed books, which we do have on hand at the center, it's a great activity to go for a walk in the woods and then maybe go home, have a nice warm hot chocolate or your drink of whatever you drink, and then read a book about your walk in the woods. So with that said, please do give it a try, and we will be back next week for another fun outdoor activity. Thanks for talking with us.